Welcome to the League of Nerds comic book segment number 98. I'm John Cooney here to talk to you about comics released the 11th of December 2013. Beginning as usual with my first five, meaning these are the first 5 books I intend to read this week, and I'll give you a little more depth on them, starting with at number 1, The Walking Dead number 118. All Out War continues. Maggie takes a stand as Rick's new plan comes together. Series writer Robert Kirkman spoke recently about the difference between writing for comics and television. Quote, "Comics writing is a solitary job. Sometimes you work with an editor or an artist on a project, but it's mostly you getting your ideas across. For Walking Dead show, I work with a group of writers. Working with them is like the writing process itself. You brainstorm ideas, write drafts, etc. We use the meetings to create a framework for the story. There are also a lot more revisions. Lots more. In comics, I can write down my ideas. Sometimes the artist will have input, but mostly they just turn my ideas into drawings. Comics also include directions in the script that explain what the characters are doing, but that's frowned on in TV scripts. The actors are given the freedom to play out the scene as their characters would without instructions from the writers." Close quote. When asked if he had a preference, Kirkman responded, quote, "No, I don't really have a favorite. I bounce back and forth about what I like. Sometimes I want to hang out with people and enjoy tossing ideas around with other writers. They may take one of my ideas and approach it from an entirely different angle that I even think is better than my original idea. They're the ones who would get credit for it and vice versa. Again, with comics, I can take my writing in the directions I want, and on occasions it's good to be alone with my thoughts." Close quote. At number 2, we've got Invincible number 107. Monax did not deserve this life. Monster Girl has to deal with her failure as a father. Not a typo, it's complicated. All the while, the greatest foe Invincible ever faced plans to make his move. Okay, rather than the usual behind-the-scenes soundbite, I thought I'd take this opportunity to try to describe Monster Girl's history just to give you a glimpse at how interesting and compelling even these secondary characters are and why you should be reading Invincible. Alright, so while she was a senior in high school, Amanda was cursed by a gypsy grandmother for her forbidden romantic involvement with her grandson. Consequently, she underwent Hulk-like transformations, turning into a male monstrous creature while maintaining her original consciousness. As she developed control over the transformations, she used the increased strength and heroic capacities and became known as Monster Girl. Now, one of the peculiar side effects of her powers was that as she spent time in her monstrous form, it resulted in her de-aging as a human. So while she kept the intellect and mental maturity of a woman in her 20s, she now inhabited the body of a prepubescent girl, with concern that her continually younger body would eventually revert to a baby. However, one of her teammates, Robot, had developed feelings for her and was determined to solve her challenge, eventually developing a belt that prevented the de-aging from her transformations. Subsequently, the two were trapped in another dimension, and although only months passed on Earth, hundreds of years went by in the Flaxen dimension, where the couple ultimately became rulers. But as the weight of leadership impacted their relationship over the years, eventually they grew apart, and Monster Girl had an affair with a Flaxen female while in her monstrous form, fathering a son that eventually rose to power in the Flaxen dimension after Monster Girl and Robot had returned to Earth. He attempted to conquer Earth and was finally defeated by Robot and Monster Girl, his father, which brings us to the current issue. Now remember, this is all a background subplot sideline story of secondary characters in this title, and it's just one of the many examples of the rich and intricate storytelling that occurs in this book. Alright, at number 3, we've got Uncanny X-Men number 15, Inhumanity tie-in. The ladies of the Uncanny X-Men go out on the town and find themselves face to face with the effects of inhumanity. Wait, is that Kitty Pryde with the Uncanny X-Men? Rising star Chris Anka comes in as a guest artist for this special issue. Guest artist Chris Anka described the issue, quote, "I don't want to give away too much that it relies on the ending of Battle of the Atom, Infinity, and Inhumanity. What I can tell you is that it involves the ladies from the team having a night out in which they have an unexpected run into the effects of what's going on in Inhumanity, all of which I'm very excited to draw. It's going to be incredibly fun. One of the benefits of drawing a story that isn't mainly an action piece is that you can really have fun exploring characters' personality. I'll get to really play with who these characters are and how they get along or not together." Close quote. At number 4, we've got Batman number 26. 0 Year continues. With Gotham City thrown into total chaos by the Riddler, Batman and Jim Gordon must learn to work together. Series writer Scott Snyder explained how this arc and issue would revisit Batman's origin. Quote, "We want to create a story around that day and the night that gives you a different context for the events that play into what this arc is about. Otherwise, there really wouldn't be a point in showing it. We could just say his parents died in an alley and that's it. You've seen it enough times. And really, there isn't any outdoing the Miller version, in my opinion, of the depiction visually. So it became about, well, if we're going to show it, let's show it in a way that makes it part of a story about that whole day and that moment in Bruce's life that changes its meaning and gives it the same iconic status and doesn't change the pieces of it. You're not going to see it in such a way that Joe Chill is now the Riddler or anything ridiculous like that. He's Joe Chill. But the events themselves are framed differently, and the things that happened that day charge it with different consequences for Bruce. It's the beginning of the story about the alley. This is definitively the arc where you're going to see what happened in the alley in that seminal moment. But the events leading up to it are going to be really different from what you've seen, and frame it in such a way that I think gives you a fresh and surprising look at the day that Bruce's life changed." Close quote. And at number 5, we've got Justice League number 25. Forever Evil continues as the crime syndicate hunts down the few heroes left foolish enough to challenge them, including Batman's protege Dick Grayson. But Owlman has other plans for Nightwing, and Owlman's teammate, the most deadly being on the planet, Ultraman. Series writer Jeff Johns explained, quote, "When the series started to develop, it grew organically out of a Justice League story and the reintroduction of the crime syndicate. The idea was, if the Justice League was taken out and the heroes were down and out, who would replace them? And that started to grow into a bigger story focusing on Lex Luthor. The line I've got in my head that the whole series grew out of is, evil is relative. The whole idea is, I think a lot of the DC villains, I love supervillains obviously, it's a place I'm extremely comfortable, but a lot of our villains are popular characters in their own right. They have redeeming qualities. They're really complex characters. Whether I'm writing Sinestro or Catwoman or Black Adam, I like to explore their characters from a point of view that's not necessarily evil. The cliche is that the villains are the heroes of their own stories, but I subscribe to the fact that the most interesting villains are the ones that you understand. There's a small part of them you actually root for because in a twisted way, their motives are almost right. Or at the very least, as a human being, we can understand why they do what they do and what they've had to overcome themselves to do it. With Forever Evil, what I wanted to do was contrast these villains with a greater evil, an evil that's a little alien to us, with a group of characters that are devoid of the redeemable qualities I think a lot of the DC villains inherently have. By removing the superheroes from the equation, having an evil force like the Crime Syndicate come in, which essentially is a twisted, dark Justice League, having them come in and try to take over the world, it leaves a vacuum for someone to save us. And what if that ends up being filled by the world's greatest villains? Who are they? Why would they do that? Which ones would? And the Crime Syndicate are extremely dark. They come from a universe where sympathy, empathy, and sacrifice don't exist. A place where love isn't shown or expressed and rarely truly felt. It's a horrible place, a bizarre culture that's created these men and women. We'll see their origins within Justice League and Forever Evil. So if the Crime Syndicate attacks, how would the villains react if they actually won? If the villains won and they won in this way, would everyone go along with it? I don't think they would because everyone wants something different. At first glance, Lex wants to be as beloved and respected as Superman, though there's a far greater secret in his life that pushes him to strive for success in everything he does, which we'll learn more about as the series progresses. Close quote. Rounding out the top 10 at number 6, we've got Justice League of America number 10, a Forever Evil tie-in. The survivors of the Crime Syndicate's attack now face a world where Earth's most dangerous criminals are in charge. Can they bring a new team together in time to combat them? At number 7, we've got Nightwing number 26. With the events of Forever Evil looming, Nightwing enters the final stages of life as he knows it. At number 8, we've got Wolverine and the X-Men number 39. The effects of Battle of the Atom continue to be felt. Wolverine and Cyclops versus Sentinels. What does this have to do with S.H.I.E.L.D.? At number 9, we've got Cataclysm Ultimate Spider-Man number 2 of 3. The young heroes of the Ultimate Universe gather together to save New York from the terror of Galactus. Wartime romance blooms and a new hero debuts. And at number 10, we've got Cataclysm The Ultimates number 2 of 3. Hulk organism designed only for killing versus Hercules. MODOK prepares the world for the end. Reed Richards' city is the key to Galactus' final solution. For the best of the rest from DC Comics, we've got Astro City number 7. A major new 4-part epic begins featuring Winged Victory, Samaritan, and the Confessor, 3 of Astro City's most popular heroes. It begins when a young boy seeks sanctuary and training at Winged Victory's school for battered women, and builds to revelations, accusations, and a threat that may spell the end of her heroic career. Plus, Winged Victory's origin is revealed at last. Next, we've got Batgirl number 26, the shocking conclusion of Batgirl Wanted. Can Barbara save her father's life without compromising the truth about her brother's death? We've also got FBP Federal Bureau of Physics number 6. When the newest member of the team is introduced, nothing is what it first appears. Again, the agents of the FBP have learned to deal with unruly physics, but can they learn to deal with each other? The turbulent nature of the FBP gets even crazier in issue number 6. Next, we have Forever Evil Arkham War number 3 of 6. As the battle for control over Gotham City escalates, a new protector rises. But first, it's the face-off you won't want to miss, Killer Croc vs. Bane. We've also got Justice League 3000 number 1, Resolicited. The new series starring the heroes of today, tomorrow, is Resolicited, now with legendary artist Howard Porter of JLA on board. But what are these heroes doing in the year 3000, and who or what brought them there? Get ready for a dose of wonder from the writing team of Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. We've also got Legends of the Dark Knight 100-page super spectacular number 1, in Without Sin. When the disfigured body of a priest is uncovered at a Gotham City demolition site, all clues lead Batman to suspect one of his old foes. But in Gotham City, not everything is as it appears. Plus, in Dr. Quinn's diagnosis, Batman interrogates Harley Quinn, who might reveal her pudding secrets, if Batman agrees to one strange demand. Next, we have Suicide Squad number 26, a Forever Evil tie-in. With a murderous king shark on her tail, Amanda Waller must go deeper into the depths of Belle Reeve to free a mysterious prisoner so dangerous that only she knows of his existence. Meanwhile, it's a battle royale between the squad's two Gotham City psychos, Harley Quinn and James Gordon Jr. We've also got Superboy number 26. Lost in time with the Teen Titans, Superboy comes to some startling revelations about his origins and future. Can he and the team rescue Kid Flash and find their way back to their own era? Next, we have Superman Wonder Woman number 3, Zod Unleashed. Can Superman and Wonder Woman stop this madman before he gains full control under the Earth's yellow sun? Guest starring the JLA and featuring a shocking conclusion that could mean the end of Superman and Wonder Woman together. And we've got World's Finest number 18. As Power Girl's abilities grow increasingly uncontrollable and unpredictable, Huntress finds herself without backup as she stalks a new villain preying on the upper crust of New York City glamour. From Marvel Comics, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 700.2. 1 year after his death at the hands of Superior Spider-Man, Peter Parker is back. Acclaimed novelist David Morrell of First Blood and legendary comics icon Klaus Janson of Daredevil End of Days team up to kick off this celebration of the world's greatest superhero. With a blizzard crippling New York City, Spider-Man must protect the city, but Aunt May's life is in danger. Now, as I mentioned last week, this isn't actually the return of Peter Parker, but it's a flashback story told of a period before his quote-unquote death. We've also got Amazing Spider-Man 700.3, continuing the special celebration of the original Spider-Man from Man of Action's Joe Casey and Tim Green of Avengers Academy. What is the Black Lodge, and how has Spider-Man been trapped there, surrounded by his deadliest foes? Then the Black Cat and Spider-Man team up to bust an international art thievery ring in Cat and Mouse by Jan Van Meter of Captain Marvel and Emma Rios of Amazing Spider-Man. Finally, a young boy must learn he can't rely on superheroes like Spider-Man to stand up against bullies in 12 O'Clock High by Clay Chapman of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Javier Rodriguez of Daredevil. Next, we have Avengers A.I. number 7. Here comes Inhumanity and Old Hornhead himself. Cleaning up New York in the wake of Infinity, the A.I. find themselves at the mercy of Grandma? Daredevil plus Ant-Man equals a doctorate in wisecracks and hijinkery. Doombot finds his inner hero, sort of. We've also got Inhumanity The Awakening number 1 of 2. Inhumanity hits Marvel superhuman schools. Inhuman chrysalises have appeared across the world. Some want them, some want to destroy them, and your favorite superhuman students are caught in the crossfire. From the pages of Infinity the Hunt comes more craziness from the Avengers Academy and the Jean Grey School, written by the Hunt's Matt Kint. Next, we have Marvel Knights Hulk number 1 of 4, an all-new Hulk epic spotlighting the unique talents of two rising stars. Marvel Knights returns as a platform for the continuing influx of unique independent voices to Marvel, as writer Joe Keatinge of Glory and artist Piotr Kowalski of Sex unleash the Green Goliath. An amnesiac Dr. Bruce Banner awakens on the banks of the Seine and soon finds himself in a desperate race through the streets of Paris. Who is hunting him, and how are they both transforming into grotesque Hulks? A mind-bending mystery plus an iconic city plus huge monsters equals quirky cool Hulk action downloaded directly from the mad minds of Keatinge and Kowalski. We've also got Mighty Avengers number 4, Inhumanity tie-in. In the aftermath of Infinity, Luke Cage brings his Mighty Avengers together, and a certain superior someone is not happy about it. Plus the birth of the new Ronin. This solicit sponsored by Cortex Incorporated, Cortex, tomorrow is in our hands. And we've got Nova number 11. It's all new Nova now as we welcome new writer Jerry Dugan. The deadly secrets of the Nova Corps stand revealed, and Sam is way over his helmeted head. This is the beginning of something big, cosmic fans, an epic odyssey that will take our warp speed wonderkin to the very ends of the Marvel Universe. From Boom Studios, we've got Deathmatch number 12. The final battle is here as the two heroes left standing wage war for the fate of the universe, the conclusion to the vaunted superhero maxi series from famed creators Paul Jenkins and Carlos Magno. From Dark Horse Comics, we've got Star Wars number 12. After a battle with the Empire, it's a time of reunions, departures, and reassessments. Han and Chewie return from their mission to Coruscant, Luke deals with love lost, and Leia must accept greater responsibilities within the rebellion. But first she has an important announcement for the rebel commanders. And we've got X number 8. Redoso and his partners have Lee safely in custody, but Lieutenant Setter and his Dogs of War will stoop to any low to snatch her away. The struggle within the police force erupts into a full-on firefight when X shows up to enforce his own law, and what he does next will shock you. From Dynamite Entertainment, we've got Battlestar Galactica Starbuck number 2 of 4. The origin of Lieutenant Starbuck continues, told by number 1 New York Times bestselling author Tony Lee. 2 years before the attack on Simtar, and Starbuck has hit rock bottom. But when a clue to the Cylon spy behind the attack on Umbra appears, Starbuck finally has a chance to gain justice for his parents. But can Starbuck and Apollo find the spy before the Cylons stop them? From IDW Publishing, we've got Indestructible number 1 of 4. Meet Greg Pincus, the planet's brand spanking newest superhero. One small problem, Greg is neither super nor particularly heroic, but he sure enjoys the perks that come with the job. Can Greg survive a celebrity-obsessed world that wrongly believes he's indestructible? Jeff Klein explores this comedic take on a reluctant hero and contemplates what is required to be considered special in a world where fame can come and go faster than a speeding bullet. Next we have Max Maximized number 2. The second issue of Sam Keith's classic Max series continues with all pages completely rescanned from Sam's original art and new coloring that's overseen by the creator. For longtime fans, this completely remastered version of Keith's quirky classic is truly a brand new look at an old and treasured friend. For those just new to the Max, Julie and the Outback, we envy your discovering it for the first time. And we've got Star Trek Annual 2013 by John Byrne, a special extra-length one-of-a-kind photo novel sequel to a beloved classic. Years ago, James Kirk saved his ship, but the price was the life of his oldest friend in Starfleet, or was it? The crew of the Starship Enterprise faces a staggering discovery in a brand new episode of the original Star Trek. From Image Comics, we've got Alex plus Ada number 2 of 15. Alex struggles with figuring out what to do with Ada, his new android, before anyone finds out about her. She's not what he expected. Next we have Lazarus number 5, new story arc, Lift Part 1. Following Jonah's betrayal, Forever is beginning to question the nature of family, in particular her own. Waste from all over the Carlisle domain traveled to Denver in hopes of improving their lives. And we've got Protectors Inc. number 2, an unexplained local disappearance, a corpse that lands several hundred miles from the scene of the crime, and the very first death of one of the Protectors. What do these three seemingly unrelated incidents have in common? And why is Protectors Inc. so determined to whitewash the possibility that the superpowered hero was murdered? Lieutenant Detective Riley may be the only one who really wants to discover the truth. From Valiant Entertainment, we've got Harbinger number 19, Perfect Day No More. The grim truth behind the most shocking arc of Harbinger yet is finally revealed. Peter Stanchek prepares for the mental battle of his life, with the fate and freedom of his fellow renegades hanging in the balance. And we've got Unity number 2. Broken but not beaten, Unity has to put down Exo Manowar and avert nuclear war. But Harada's super team lasted a grand total of 5 minutes last issue before they were taken out. Time for Unity 2.0. But how do you get a cast of malcontents, egotists, immortal warriors, and manipulative backstabbers to work together? The answer? You don't tell them they're working together. Alright, no time for trades, but I covered them all in the other videos, so that's just a few of my favorite books out this week. There's still plenty of others available. I broke out all the Marvel titles this week in their own video, as well as a separate video for all of DC, and even a video with the top independent publishers. You can find them all on my YouTube channel at he'sgotissues.com. And we'll also have links up on the leagueofnerds.com, our Facebook page, so be sure to like us there too. And of course, you can follow everything I'm reading on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, or Twitter. You can find links to everything in the About section at he'sgotissues.com. And a reminder that both He's Got Issues and the League of Nerds are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network. So until next week, I'm John Cooney, and I've got issues.